They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are mourn, just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Rogueways, I'm excited to speak with a contemporary with a very similar life path and life's work to my own, who has so long been fascinated with alternative healing, consciousness expansion, and human potential, and shares these passions along with his quantum healing gifts and experiences via his books, most recently the Slipstream Shaman. He also hosts a radio program called My Side of the Universe. Welcome to the Slipstream Shaman himself, Todd Wilcox. Todd, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Lindsay. Thank you for having me on.
It's awesome. We both have shows. We both have shamanic gifts and healing that we offer to people, and I love getting to chat with people who understand. We were talking before the show about some of the electronic things that tend to plague us, which will not plague us tonight. Tonight,
no,
everyone will hear us perfectly. So we'll get into some of that. And I do want to shout out our friends over at Content Safe. Just, they're so good. They take all of my content and they make sure it's on every single platform that I want my content on, and they're extremely good at it. So if you need anything with your multi-platform video hosting needs, Content Safe is the way to go. Trustworthy and awesome. I also want to just shout out my audiobook on Audible, Sine Curve of Aeons. Go listen to it. You love listening. Obviously, you're here listening, probably on the podcast. Maybe you're watching live, but I know that you love to listen to things anyway, so you can go get that book now. Perfectly done. Very professional. I love it. I'm very much a fan of it myself. I also have paper copies available to you from me or Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but if you get them from me, you get a little inscription channeled in just to you. My orgone that I make, is all of that is on the store at rogueways.org, as well as the one-on-one sessions with me if you want some spiritual support from your guides and allies and source. And you can always support, someone, Logan, in the chat today already just threw up a little $10 tip. Wow, I appreciate it so much. No, I'm sorry, it was $20. I just really appreciate all of that, because this wouldn't happen with all of you without all of you and your support and your love. And I'm just so grateful to have you all here with me. So if you want to support, you can do that. Tips are always welcome. You can also subscribe on Rockfin, Subscribestar, or rogue.locals.com. There's always some content that's exclusive just for supporters, especially every week we have a show, Middle Path. Every week we have a hangout, and every week there's more exclusive content for you if you support. So do that any of those places or Apple Podcasts. And finally, you can get courses from me on Thinkific, rogueways.thinkific.com. You can link to that from the site at rogueways.org, as well as plenty of other stuff. And I will be quiet now. And Todd, I would love to ask you the pointless question of the episode, which is, what do you love most about late summer?
So late summer, the first thing that comes to mind is thunderstorms. I absolutely love sitting somewhere where I can see them and witness them and feel them without being in direct line of the lightning, of course.
Yeah.
But to watch that spectacle is just a joy. I love thunderstorms. So I'm going to go with thunderstorms on that question.
Well, that's a good answer. I really love them too. I'm here in Colorado where we have more thunderstorms than I've ever got to experience in my life, and I love it. It's so much fun. Like you said, don't want to be in the actual line of lightning, but watching it, and super fun. Really cool energy too. It's just beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, when the hairs on your arm stick up, you're close enough.
Yeah.
And it's a good time.
And that smell that you only get at that time. I
love
it.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say swimming in lakes or rivers is also really nice. It's almost always hot enough in late summer, no matter where you are in the northern continent here, North American continent, that you can actually go swimming in the freshwater streams and lakes. So I love that about late summer as well.
That's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. What does it mean to be a slipstream shaman?
So what I'm talking about with that is it's about speed. Many of the shamanic processes are days in duration, and it takes a long time to get things done, and we don't always have that kind of time. The other background I have is in NLP and hypnosis, and those things tend to go fast too. And in NLP, the people I learned with taught us, if you can learn to do a process in 5 steps, why don't you see if you can do it in 3, and cut some of those down. And so we were always looking for faster ways to do things, and that's where the slipstream part comes in. And it's if you're ever, and ease, not just speed, but ease. If you're ever on the freeway and you get behind a semi, you notice that your car is working less hard. It's much more efficient when it's right behind the semi. You don't want to get too close that you get in a crash, but if you get behind it in that slipstream, it's actually pulling you along. You're using less RPMs, less gas, and you are probably going faster than you were. And that's what being about the slipstream that I'm talking about, is finding a way to make fast changes and shoot them forward. So you're shooting them into your future, and you're actually shooting them into your past as well. When you heal yourself, it goes in all directions. Time, we don't understand time correctly. Healing takes place everywhere. One of the funny things with my book is my editor just loses her mind when I send her the writings for the talking about the work that I've done, because it doesn't go with English rules of present tense, past tense, and present tense. It's all over, and it's whatever sounds right to me. And she'll change the words, and when I read it, it reads wrong. Yeah. But to the humans out there, it's going to read right. But after being in that quantum state, being where there is no time, the tense words that I chose made sense, even though they don't when you're reading it in English.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, I especially if I'm doing a ceremony for someone, I'll start to sort of get into it, and I'll tell them, that you may notice as we're going here that some of the ideas or some of the things that are coming up are things that have actually been echoing for the past 2 weeks, maybe, and maybe your whole lifetime. And then you will also notice as you leave the ceremony that that's going to continue into the future, and you're going to feel a little weird about it. Well, when was the actual ceremony taking place then? And the answer is all of those times, right? We're not in charge of that even. That's just like you said, the healing takes place in all times.
Yes. And that's the part, one of the many things that absolutely fascinated me as I was starting to learn shamanic ways, if I could ever say it correctly, as I was learning the ways of the shaman, was that time didn't matter. When I'm in that state where I'm working with spirit and energy, it just doesn't matter. It may feel like I've spent 3 hours in there working with somebody or working with a group. In reality, in this human form, it was only 10 or 15 minutes. And then the opposite has happened too, where I think, well, that went too fast. I couldn't have done anything, and I've spent an hour in meditation working on that. So yeah, time's a funny thing, and the more I explore it, the less I understand it.
Yeah, except that we don't understand it.
yeah, and I accept that and just go with it. Yeah. And it takes me where it takes me.
I think just even that is a very freeing aspect of this work, to understand that nothing is so fixed. I guess it takes a lot of fear away, for me at least. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you know that you can make changes, just as an example, you take 2 kids, but let's just say twin boys, in a situation when they're 5, one, it completely traumatizes. The other one, it's barely a blip on their radar. Same situation, the same exact thing happened, same DNA, both perceived it differently. When you work these processes and help people, you help that twin that had the trauma at that time release it, get better, be able to heal, and have more of an experience like the other twin did too. So yeah, time makes no difference, and you can basically travel in time and help people heal.
Yeah. I have a couple stories about traveling in time too, as well as sort of seeming timeline shifts. Have you experienced some timeline shifts, do you think?
There's been times where, especially when I'm working on myself, and I'm doing something from grade school, say, and I can feel it's almost like a wave coming towards me with the changes. I feel like it's changing even in other situations, and even things I said as it comes up that timeline. And it's really like a wave, like an energy wave coming at me. And then as it goes through me and past me, I can feel that I've healed. And then I can also tell that in the future, it's going to continue to get better, and I'm going to get stronger and more healed. And it's just going to continue to help not just me, but my loved ones. We talk about 7 generational healings, and that's not just about our blood relatives. It's about our family groups. It's about spiritual groups. It's a lot of different things going to that 7 generational healing, and you can feel that happening when you're doing the work.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was gonna ask you about, some people feel like there's something like wrong with us sort of like choosing, like, I'm going to heal this person. It's going to change their whole timeline. And like, what if they were supposed to be on this timeline? And I'm always like, oh, I'm not even really choosing. Like, that was one of my best shamanic teachers, like, laughed at me when I said what I was choosing. He's like, oh, you still think you choose things? Like, and I get it more that I'm sort of guided to this and that was how it's supposed to be. And so I don't have that fear. Do you deal with that fear at all, or have you encountered that idea, or what would you say to that?
So yeah, there has been concern that things are the way they should be, but really the work I do, and I'm guessing the same with you, is not so much to completely change something, but it's to augment it and to get it more on track, get it more the way it should be. So yeah, that has been a thought from time to time, but for the most part, I think I'm being placed in position to help correct something that's not in balance. And so I don't understand the entire workings of the universe. I'm working on it, but it's not quite in my grasp yet. But I feel like I'm there to help, to guide, to enhance where they're going, and help people be where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I almost feel like the equivalent argument would be like, well, then no one should ever go anywhere and do anything, because what if you like do something you weren't supposed to? And it's like, it's not even worth really thinking about things that way. It doesn't matter. I don't know. You
can shut your whole life down worrying about the butterfly effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I the same goes for, similar goes for NLP and hypnosis. I had my own thing with hypnosis for a long time. I was like, no one's ever going to hypnotize me, because I was like, what are they going to do in there? Like, that's not fair. It's not safe. And I felt that way about it. And then NLP came up, and I was like, wow, you could really use this for nefarious purposes. And so there's some fear around that, but it's the same sort of thing. Like, well, I mean, anyone can use anything negatively. You could use paint negatively. Like,
yes, without question. And I guess I don't necessarily think about that too much. I'm here to help. I'm here to be positive and to help. And honestly, that doesn't even hit my radar. I've had conversations with people that get nervous about it, and rightly so. And I had to tell them, I'm not going to make you act like a chicken. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. You're going to be in complete control. I'm just helping you get better. And so it's that positive energy, staying on the lighter side of things, and making sure that I do fulfill my purpose, which is to help. And that's one of the things I talk about in the book. Is when I found my purpose, I was surprised that it was just 2 words, to help. And I was also surprised that even though it was a very simple thought, it's a very hard thing to do. So simple doesn't mean easy.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm on the side of helping, and I try to alleviate people's fears that we could be doing something less than clean with these processes. And you could, especially with NLP, well, with hypnosis more, I guess, there were people that were, when they would work with individuals to stop smoking, they would put a thought, set a thought that the cigarette is garbage or feces or whatever, so it would gross them out to do it. All that does is move them away from cigarettes. It doesn't doesn't help them find what's wrong. It doesn't go to the root cause and take care of why they're smoking in the first place. And so, yeah, there's things like that. And I think it's just the easy way, you might call it the lazy way to do things, but really what you want to do with any of this, whether it's the shaman work or NLP or hypnosis, is find the root cause and help people get through that and find their way through it.
Yeah, that's totally it. You know, I went through addiction counseling, and I went through 12-step programs, and I went through Jungian psychotherapy, which is the most helpful. It was like I found the most progressively like more and more helpful things after each thing, and all of them took all this time, and I've, you know, decades later I'm like finally starting to really heal. And then I found, you know, all these shamanic healings along the way as well, and each of those was like all of those other things like crammed into one thing in like one day. And I was just like, yes. Whoa, like it's not like you're skipping anything either. It's not like you're like taking you're taking a shortcut, but you're not taking like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, we're changing energy. We're helping energy go where it needs to go. We're removing barriers. And it's funny that the shaman way has not been more accepted. You know, where psychiatry and psychology has, I'm curious as to how that deviation happened, and I'm guessing it had something to do with money. Yeah. Most things do, and so somewhere along the line, the shaman were pushed to the side as something different, something scary, where psychology and psychiatry were looked at as the only way to go. And my degree's in psychology, so I'm not bad mouthing it.
Yeah.
But you know, I think we've just left too many things on the table and haven't experimented and looked at them and taken it seriously.
Yeah, it's really easy to dismiss by most people. And especially, I think, you know, you and I happen to both seem to be white people. And I know a lot of people have sort of like a problem with that too, right? Like, well, shamanism, if it's real, is done like in the deep jungles or whatever, and like by, you know, people who are still very traditionally tribal and in their ethnic heritage and roots still, and definitely not, you know, in a city by some white girl with a pink shirt. Like, there's just so there's not just the dismissal of it altogether, but also like this, I don't know, it's hard to
Sure.
for people to accept that it could be anywhere but that setting, I guess.
And we've been trained over the last 50 plus years on TV that shamans are basically voodoo practitioners, and you know, you throw bones at people and maybe hit them with a stick or something, and that it's kind of been made fun of on TV and movies, and that's something you need to overcome. And I think that things are changing. People are getting more. There's more knowledge out there, and as funny as it sounds, the internet has helped us really kind of get back to our roots with shamanism and that, because there's so much more information easily that you can easily find and study and work on. So yeah, you don't have to wear a robe, you don't have to have a stick, though I do use rattles a lot just to help me focus energy, but you don't have to have any of that stuff.
That's right. Yeah, I do have my drum, but that also is just another synchronicity that like, oh, I have a drum now. Cool. I mean, I made it myself, but that was just an accident, you know. And about this mischaracterization, I also read tarot and have for many years, and that is always mischaracterized. Like, it's always some woman, it's always the death card, and there's always like thunder and lightning, and you know. But there's actually a show, maybe you've seen it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Undone. Have you seen that?
Undone. It sounds familiar. I have not watched it, but I'll make a note of it.
Yeah, you might love it. It's exactly as I guess eye-opening about what shamanism is actually like and what it might actually be like in the modern world, especially for someone who doesn't, you know, really know anything about it. I feel like it's, you know, part of my story made into a movie, and maybe you'll feel the same. So that I'd love to hear your thoughts about it sometime after you've watched it.
Yeah.
But I know, you know, a lot of what we're talking about has this connection to sort of the idea of quantum technology or quantum states and quantum fields. And, you know, I know that you get into this and you have a quantum room. What is that for you?
Yes. Okay. So let's start with the whole quantum thing. And the terms sound and feel right for me, just like the present tense, past tense, all that did. So the terms are right for me. you're not going to pass a physics exam reading my book. Okay? So just so we're clear, I may be calling it what I call quantum. Einstein may just roll his eyes and pat me on the head. But but what my quantum room is it's a place where I do most of my healing and work, and now it's even opening up to bigger and more exciting rooms. What happened was I learned how to access my energy, and on the front of the book you can see the hands, and you bring your hands together and you've got the energy right here in your palms, and you can feel it. And everybody has different energy. Mine's cold. Some of the people I work with have warm energy. When I was learning about this, the instructor was forcing the color of her energy, trying to force it onto us, the temperature of her energy, force it onto us. And it took me out of the training. I had to go after this was over. I practiced it on my own and realized, okay, my color of energy is different than hers. My temperature of energy is different than hers. What else is different? And I just started experimenting. And I used rattles to help me focus. I did some chanting and drums. A friend of mine made me a drum, so I made him a rattle. But it was all just to help me focus. One day while meditating, and what meditating was for years, was sitting in a chair, trying to clear my mind, and then falling asleep.
I hear that a lot.
It was just a nap, yeah. And then one day I got into this room, and it's just a place where it's me, and it's just mist. It's just this gray, undulating mist around me, and almost anything can happen there. I get my spirit guides coming to me in that room. I have animals that help me with the healing come to me in that room. I have the people that I'm doing the healing with come to me in that room. And I don't have to be in proximity with the people. A lot of the work I do is, almost all of it is hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. I've worked with people on other continents. I'm currently working with a couple different people in Florida, and just all over the place. And I'm hoping someday to work with some people outside our universe. So that's a next step. But the quantum room is, for me, just a place to focus my energy and do almost anything I want. You're superhuman in that room. There's no limits. There's no bounds. I can meditate. I can get things done, and I can have conversations with my spirit guides and other guides, animal guides, while I'm in there. And that's where I do my work.
That's very.
And everybody has a different spirit room, a different quantum room. In the book, I talk about people have one lady has a beautiful pond that she walks down some steps to, and that's where hers is. Sometimes she floats, sometimes she kicks the water, sometimes she walks around it, sometimes she just looks. Other people have a favorite car that's their quantum room, looks like the inside of that car, or in a study, or outside. A really cool one that I like the sound of was one guy in some pine trees. He can smell the pine needles, and he's on a pile of rocks that have formed a perfect place for him to sit down or lay down, and they adjust depending on if he wants to sit down or lay down. So everybody's quantum room's different. Talked to a young lady a few months ago. Hers was just this cool, just energy flying around her, different color energy going around her. Like I would imagine, maybe it looks like in a neutron star or something, just so much energy, and it's all swirling. So hers was very different, and probably more than I could handle. Too much activity going on in there. And I think you build your room based on your personality and where you're comfortable and where you can find the most work, and it's going to be a happy place for you, a place to do your healing for yourself and for others.
That's so fascinating. I've not heard the terminology quantum room. I actually wasn't given any terminology, and when I found mine, it's just endless darkness with no features at all, and I just call it the soul space, which is the same thing though as what you're describing. So I love this, and audience knows how much I love this, finding these sort of different, slightly different traditions, or maybe totally different traditions, but finding those things that are similar and just have this different language, but it's the same thing. And this is another one of those. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's truly the only place I've ever been able to meditate and stay awake.
Yeah.
So
Actually
works
do something
very well.
consciously there, right? Do you find that you have the sort of same animal guides come again and again and assist you with the healing, or that are your sort of guides, or do you see other people's guides and they're different, or how does that sort of go for you?
Yeah. So a couple things are happening. I have some guides. My main guides are, I feel like they're probably alien in nature. They don't look like anything on this earth. There's 3 of them that come and help me, and 2 of them are so hard to see. They're like out of phase. I can hear them. I know they're there. I can see an outline, but I can never see them clearly. My main guide I can see very clearly, and then I have 2 2 animal guides: an elk, a big bull elk, and also Sasquatch. People that know me are not surprised that Sasquatch is one of them. But those 2 come to help me, and then I have a lot of different animals that help me with people. And I don't know if I would call them spirit guides. I've wondered over the last few years, are they just an aspect of me that I'm creating to help these people, or are they the spirits of the animals that I've had? And I really believe that they're actually the spirits of the animals that I've had. So Desi, this beagle that I had, is the first one that came to help. And she could sniff out a problem in anybody. She had the best nose of any dog I've ever been around, and she could just sniff until she found a problem and remove it. Then we deal with the problem, and then help the person. And then other dogs that I've had came to help. Currently, I'm helping a guy in another state, and a giraffe has been coming to help. Find out that he's got a very strong affection to giraffes, and I do too. I love giraffes. I thought it was there for me, but it's probably there for him. And, so, but yeah, there's been all kinds of stuff. A rat has come to help at times, and they all are there to help the people get better. And it might be easier to just describe kind of what happens. So I'll find out that somebody's having health problems, and I will invite them in, and I don't want to know what the problems are. I don't want to know, if they have a heart problem or a kidney problem or whatever. I don't want to know, because I lead it that way if I know, and I don't want to do that. I want to find out where things are and let it happen organically. And one of my favorite ones is a lady came into the room. Desi started sniffing around her and went to her back and started, scratching on her back by her heart. Pulled what looked like a rag out of her body, and we set it out and did some other healing with her. But the rag that we took out, I call them companions, and they're all kinds of things. Sometimes it looks like a stone or a bug or an eel or a leech or a cable or a stick, or who knows. There are all kinds of different things, but I call them companions. And these things started out as something that was there to help us. As an example, a little kid's getting screamed at by his dad, just goes inside, gets real quiet. That behavior helps him in the moment. He gets quiet, the dad stops screaming, and now he's got that part of him that when somebody gets loud and mean, he goes inside. Well, that works great for dad while he's a little kid. It doesn't work so well in school. It works even less well when he gets to college. It works even less well when he's in business. And so these things that have helped us at one time need to evolve and go their other ways. And that's what these things are that we're pulling out of people. I call them companions, because at first I thought they were something bad. We would actually burn them with energy. So I was kind of very crude in my initial workings. And so we took that rag out, we burned it, but by the time that I was working with this person, I keep saying we because of all the dogs that are helping me.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
So we burned that rag, and then there's a group that came to do kind of battle. I called them a warrior group. And then there was a group that came that was for love and that would do the actual healing after the warrior group got done. And so we burned that rag, gave it to the love team. They flooded that with energy, and it turned into a young man with these beautiful eyes that had a big smile, and he left. Well, I find out that that this person had some very serious heart trouble, and the heart was getting worse. And virtually from the day we did that, improvement happened to where eventually within less than 2 years they were off their heart medicine, off breathing apparatus and other things, and healing. Now, did I heal her? That's I don't know how to answer that question other than to say I think I helped. I think there was an energy problem that we eliminated that maybe allowed the medicine to work and do its job, and for her body to do its job. So I think we were a part of it. I can't say that we, I can't say, yep, I healed a heart, but I was a part of it. And it took a long time to actually believe that myself. You say, well, maybe the medicine just started working. Maybe this happened, maybe that happened. But after you say maybe 20 different times with people and animals, you start to think, okay, these coincidences are stacking up to the point where, I've got to believe and have confidence that what I'm doing is actually helping.
Yeah, that's actually like the hardest. That's always been the hardest part for me, is just believing that this is actually real and that this is what's happening. Because yes. All of it, every step of the way, I'm like, really? Like, that's what you guys want me to do? Like, I sound and look like a crazy person, but okay, like, I'll do it. Yeah. And then real life, I always say, if your lived experience didn't shift in some way, then like, I failed. We failed, and but it keeps happening. They keep healing physically, mentally, emotionally, all sorts of things, relationships change and all of that. So like I just have to say, okay, well then this is working and we'll keep doing it, yes. Or better.
And the book has a lot of different examples that talk about this. And what it's evolved into is a process where we find the things on the people, pull them off, get them off them. We debride those items that we took off to get them ready to heal. Fill them full of energy, let them go to where they're supposed to be. And they always change into something. Like that rag turned into a little boy. Sometimes a rock will turn into a tree. Sometimes a blanket will turn into a flock of birds. You just never know. But that energy is going off to be what it was intended to be, where it can help and do things in a very positive way. And there's a lot of different stories in the book about that go through that whole process on how it helped. And there's another one that I'm really happy about. A homeless guy came into a place I was working, very agitated, and I came over to make him leave. And on the way out, he said he recognized me, and I was like him. And he started talking about how he has a glass skeleton and things just break. And he showed me how he's made plastic parts to hook to him to keep him from falling apart and breaking. And I've done several sessions with him to help. And every time I run into him, there's been this gigantic improvement. The next time I saw him, he was much cleaner, wearing clean clothes, standing straight. You could tell he'd been eating. Still not right, but getting better. The third time I ran into him, it was like it was a different guy, completely, clean clothes, clean and pressed clothes, speaking coherently. The changes in him were just amazing, and there was some pretty rough things that we did, to help him get there. And he wasn't really even involved in it. That's one of the few times that I've done this with somebody that didn't completely give me permission. Kind of did by saying he needed help with the glass skeletons.
Yeah, go with that.
I did that. And I'll take permission from parents. I'll take permission from a pet parent, or a spouse if somebody's really sick. And then a couple times when people have been in comas, I will help them if the family asks me to, but I always want some kind of permission before I do it.
I've thought about that with comas too. Like, where would the permission come from? But that makes sense to me. If their family is asking for it, then you know. I
Yeah.
know that we can go in and sort of check with our own guidance that is actually what we're being asked to do, but it's just, you also, I don't know, the material plane also has to satisfy the agreement part of it, I think. um that's so cool. I know a lot of homeless people tend to have these gifts, I think, you know, and that's part of what wasn't accepted, is in denial, and just like anything, we can't deny a part of ourselves. So, you know, that's actually what it is that's broken, is the rejection and the, you know, severing of that connection to what's truly us. And people with gifts, which I think we all have, you know, some to varying degrees, and others have to maybe work a little harder at it, but it's there in every single human. And I just think so many people who end up, you know, bereft and on the streets and in other situations like that are people who have these gifts, and just, you know, we're treated
Yes.
like they're crazy or feel like they're crazy, because that's what, when you talk to people about this, if they don't understand it already, they're gonna think you're crazy. Like, that's just all there is
For
to
sure.
it.
Yeah, yeah, trying to help people understand. And there's been 2 times where I offered my assistance and they've said no. And that's okay. And one of them ended up wanting to, and later, and actually got the book, and was very happy that they were involved in it now, and wish they would have started sooner. The other one hasn't come around yet, but probably will. But I do feel like I need to have that permission, and I don't charge for any of this. This is just part of my purpose, is to help. And I would love to do this full time somehow, and figure out a way. And the path that I've taken for that is to help other people learn how to do this, with a marginal fee of the book, or maybe some training that we're going to do in the future, and those kind of things to get that working. But as far as my help with people, I don't charge to do that. And I'll probably get an email or two from this. Almost every podcast or radio interview I do, somebody reaches out with asking for help, and I do that.
That's beautiful. The book is meant to help people learn to unlock their gifts.
Yes, it's to help them learn what I do, to show them the process I use, and to encourage them to find their own way, to unlock their gifts in energy healing. And the way I like to look at it is, there's a wonderful movie, A River Runs Through It. And there's a scene where a father and his 2 boys are fishing, and the dad had taught them for years, you fly fish to this beat. And he had that metronome that you have on the piano, and he taught them, this is how you fish. Well, the younger brother found his own rhythm and changed. And a big part of that movie was showing the change, and how he went about it, and he catches this gigantic fish. And that's what I would love to see with people, is I'm going to help them get a blueprint, have a basic operating system, for lack of a better term, on how to do it, and then run with it and find their own thing. This is so far away from what I first learned that first time I was doing shaman training, that you can't even compare the two. And that's what I would love to see, is people just developing their own system, and finding their way to help people, help each other, help the planet, and beyond.
I love that. Yeah, it's really necessary for people to be empowered in their own way, because that, like you described with the woman who was trying to tell you, like, this is the color of the energy, and this is the, you know, the heat of it or whatever. And you're like, well, that's not mine though. So what is, you know, those types of things seem to be all I really encounter. I shouldn't say that. I had some very good teachers that were all accidental, but all of them also weren't specifically for me, and I did have to find my own way. And so I didn't really have a teacher for most of it, except my own internal guidance. And that's fine for me, but not everyone feels as trusting or connected with that. So I love that there's people like both of us. We actually both have that approach to teaching, that we're here to help you find your way with these, you know, basic precepts and ideas, and we'll support you like the whole way. But you know, it's really individualized. It's very unique for each person, and that might even be very different. And maybe that's a lot of what this sort of modern age is for, is to help us all see just how many ways you can go, and how similar all of them are, even though they're totally different.
Beautifully said. Yes. And I think you're dead on there. So yeah.
What does polymedula
Yes,
What does that mean?
many healings.
Ah.
So that's a couple different things, and it's not a real word. I coined it. So,
I love
so the
doing
fact
that.
that you don't know it is
It's
okay.
normal.
And so it's many healings, and it can mean a couple different things. It's a healing that we can put out to a bunch of different people or a group of things. Maybe it's animals or community or whatever. And it's also a thing that we can do a healing that's going to help multiple people with the same issue. So we can do a healing tonight and maybe say put it on YouTube and the healing and talk about what happened and what happened in the room. And then it resonates with people as they watch it over the next 5 years. And all those people that needed to watch it will end up watching it. And so sometimes it's a very broad healing, like going out to dogs or going out to people with migraines or whatever, or masks mandates. I did a polymodella. I work retail. I'm a retail manager, and there was going to be a bunch of protests about masks. The retail people didn't want to force you to wear masks. We were being forced to do that.
Force, yeah.
But they wanted to fight with us, not the people making the laws. So there was going to be protests, and I did several polymodella healings on that mask thing, and it was leading up to a day and I don't remember the date. It was about a year and a half ago. There was going to be a bunch of protests. 2 days before that, they changed the mandate to much more acceptable with people, and all that energy just dissipated. All that upset energy people had just dissipated. I hope I was involved in that, in helping things relax and get better. I believe I was, based on other things that I've helped with, but that's been one of my favorite ones, because I was not looking forward to a mob coming in and demanding that they don't wear masks. And I didn't think it was right for me or my team or for the customers or even the people that were upset about it. So that one's a special one for me. And I really hope that I was a part of the whole thing happening. If I was that guy that just snuck over and pulled one pin out that made the whole thing tumble so that it could heal, I'll take that.
I have that same approach. I'm like, I'm not saying we pulled this off, but we had definitely at least helped at the very least.
The timing was absolutely right. It was one of those things that I couldn't deny. Yeah. And those, like I said, the coincidence stack up to the point where you have to believe.
Have to. Yeah, you'd be crazy not to at some point. Sometimes I see this in shows where like the universe is like screaming at someone and they're still not listening. I'm like, come on, if you're a real person and this is happening to you, like you would get it by now. Like, come on.
Yes.
So do you encounter scary things from time to time?
There are. And I was just talking with somebody about this the other day, and because of my intent, my positive intent, I think I gave myself a false sense of security that there wasn't anything out there that could hurt us. And I think there is. And I'll tell you about one. This is in the book. A great friend of mine, Ron, he has had he's been abducted by aliens multiple times. He's had a rough time with things. Yeah. And a few years ago, his heart was failing. And this was when I was really starting to get this together. And so I talked to him and asked him if I could work with him on this. And we're close. We trust each other. He says, yeah, please do whatever. And so I started working with Ron, and I did a couple sessions, and we found a lot of things. We pulled stuff off. And then on the third session, I'm in my study at home, and I have what I think is the coolest man cave in the world. I built a Captain Kirk chair to sit in. Awesome. I have a dinosaur footprint right in front of me. I have hundreds of books. It's my happy place, and I'm there working, doing the stuff with Ron. And as I'm removing things and we're healing them and that, I see this cable that's going from Ron's back. We remove it. I start to pull on it to see where it goes. My quantum room has an opening in it. The mist opens up, and there is this alien staring at me, this alien with a big triangle head staring at me. and we kind of had one of those moments where we're both scared and both don't know what to do. And as I'm trying to think of what to do, he hits me with this energy that was so bad that I'm freaking my dog out. Hits me with this energy that was so bad it actually knocked me out. And I don't know how long I was out on that, sitting in that Captain Kirk chair, but I can remember waking up and I was sore from being there for a while.
Wow. And
my past has taught me when something like that happens, you just go do it again. You can't wait. You just go. And so I did this 2 more times, same result, talking to a friend. And she says, how about you don't go in it as your Marine self this time. And you just send love to this thing and see if that helps. So I thought, well, going in head first isn't working. So I did that, and I just focused love on this alien, and it took him out of the picture for a little while. And then kind of to back up on that story, when I told Ron the first time that I got knocked out, he went pale, and he said, I haven't told you this, but a few years ago I was under hypnosis and freaked out. He had a very bad, it's called an ab reaction. And he just freaked out, screaming that there's a triangle-headed alien trying to kill me. Wow. And this was like 3 or 4 years before I did the work with him. And he was just terrified of this thing. And when I told him about it, he went white. He said, that's that thing that I got scared of in the hypnosis. And he told me about it. And when I sent love to this thing, it kind of left him alone for a little while. His heart didn't get any worse. His heart has been running at a 13% capacity for almost 3 years now. The 3 years ago, the doctors told him you have less than 6 weeks, and he just keeps hanging on. And we've done processes. We've helped get these things off. And I think what was happening with him was, it was a parasite. It was sucking his energy and killing his heart. And in the things that we've done since, I've taken care of that thing to where it won't cause trouble anymore. But it's funny, his essence is so strong that even though his heart's running at a 13% efficiency, he's still doing fine. He can walk around, he can do short hikes, he can take the pictures he loves to take. And his is the only name that I use in that book, actual person's name. And that's because he wanted me to. And we've talked a lot about it. He's been on my show many times, and people know that we know each other and what that's all about. But yes, there's bad things like that out there. I'm working with a gentleman right now that we've found something bad, and I've got a guy that does Reiki helping with it. I'm actually helping the Reiki guy, and we found something that's not pleasant at all, and I'm not sure how we're going to take care of that. So there's things out there that you do have to be careful of. And one of the things that you learn in the book is basic protection, basic energy protection, and super easy to do. In fact, I'll just share it right now. You get to where you understand your energy, you can see it, you can feel it, you know how, its temperature, its color, and you just cover yourself with it, and you set that intent that it's protecting you and it's keeping things away and letting things in that should, and keeping the stuff that shouldn't out. And that's a really great first level protection to help people if they're having things bothering them at night, if they're having some anxiety, those kind of things. It really helps with that.
Yeah, I love that. That's the first thing I teach. I'm like, hey, we're not going past this point until you're good at protecting yourself, because I know there's so many schools of thought out there, and so many teachers that are just the sort of they're so into the love and light sort of aspect that they won't even acknowledge the dark, and they think to acknowledge it is like creating it, but I think to not acknowledge it is allowing it in. It's like saying, I'm just going to leave my doors open and unlocked because I am not afraid and I love everything, and then someone's going to come in and rob you, or worse, and you don't have to let that happen. Like, you're not creating there's other things with their own wills that exist, and you're not creating them,
Mm-hmm.
That's just the universe.
Absolutely. And these parasites, and there are parasites out there, that energy parasites, that they like your your energy. They like your flavor. They like your smell, whatever you want to call it, your essence. And they'll keep coming back if you're not protecting yourself. I can remember as a young guy watching the different voodoo things, and they were always talking about the demons, that there was demons around these people. And the more I do this, I can understand why they would be calling them demons. And I don't know if they're demons, aliens, energy, whatever it is, but there's things out there that are causing us grief. And it's not just the companions that started off with a positive intent and now are doing things that harm us. But there's definitely things out there that want our energy, want to harm us, and you do have to be careful of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I'm the same, who cares even what we call them? We just know, like you said, there's some things that are us, we created it, and that's to be healed. And there's some things that are not us, and that's to be sent away.
Yes, absolutely.
Protected against. So,
yes.
And what about shadow people? Do they fall in that category for you, or how do you feel about them?
So shadow people are interesting to me. For years, and I saw one. I was working in a large hardware store, and I was stocking a plumbing aisle overnight, and all the hair on my arm started coming up. The hair on the back of my neck started coming up. I looked behind me, and there's one of them. And for people that aren't sure what we're talking about, the shadow people I'm talking about, they're about 6 feet tall, fairly heavily built, typically have some kind of a hat or helmet on, and a large coat or cape. And they're typically dark. They're going to be a blue, a gray, a black color. You know that they have a face, but you can't see the face. And you usually don't see them for a long length of time. Basically, if you pan your eyes across them, they're gone. Sometimes you get a better glimpse. Sometimes they're just watching you for a while. They love to stand at the end of beds and in hallway doors. Mostly my experience with them has been where I just call them watchers. I typically will call them the watching men, because they just seem interested in what's going on. The one that I kept seeing just seemed curious about what I was doing. And most of the people that I talked to have only seen them as watchers. Now, I have talked to two people, fairly prominent people in the paranormal community. One's had his own show and been on multiple shows. Retired police officer. Actually, they're both retired police officers. And these guys, they're the guys that when there's trouble and everybody's running away, they're running towards the problem. And both of these have encountered a shadow person that was more than they wanted to deal with. These are both high-level alpha male guys. And the one, he said, I've always considered myself an alpha till I saw this thing. That's the alpha. I am not an alpha. And so there are things out there, and I'm working with a gentleman now that's had some bad experiences with one when he was a child that was just saying horrible things to him and challenging him to do things. And I don't know if that was the typical shadow person or something imitating a shadow person.
Yeah.
Feels like it was the imitation to me, because for the most part, I've been very comfortable around these things, and I have seen them when I'm doing quantum work.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're one of the few people who describes the hat, but the hat is pretty universal, and it's so weird. Things like that, I'm just like, why though? Like, what does it mean? Like, why the hat? But it's very interesting.
One of the people that I've talked to, and I meant to let him know about this show tonight, and I forgot. He told me a story about, he was in bed. One of those things came into his room and was standing at the foot of his bed, and then basically just walked through him in the bed to the wall. So now he's behind him. And as soon as this thing got behind him, my friend's perspective changed from what he saw and felt from the bed to up into this thing's face, where he was looking out through its eyes. And it told him something to the effect of, I am you, or you are me, or we are one, or I can't remember exactly how it was phrased. But I got the feeling that sometimes these things may be possibly ourselves, future self, part of our overall soul, something like that, that's just observing what we're doing, and they could somehow be a part of us. After talking to him is when I started really thinking it might just be a part of us.
That's so interesting. A lot of my really dark encounters, which one of them was a shadow person with the hat and everything, and it was just terrifying to me because I had not had experiences like that before, and I was like, why are you in my room at night? Like, that's creepy. And you're
Exactly.
you don't have a friendly energy. But a lot of like that was when I met one of my first spirit guides as well, because of that, because I was like calling out for help basically, and it showed up, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then it made me feel better, and it spent a lot of time and energy to help me stay feeling better through the rest of the night. So I was like, well, this is a good friend, whatever it is. Right. And then I've had demonic attack type things, and then those always forced me to learn new skills and find new allies and find new ways. And so I'm not saying in any way that I would like more of those experiences. I am still going to protect against those types of experiences, but I also see this sort of like, it served me in some way. Even those dark energies in some way served me by forcing me to up my game.
Absolutely. And this shadow person that you saw, were you able to see eyes at all, or was it just that blank face that we typically see?
I couldn't see eyes. So what actually happened was it was in like a dream-like state, which a lot of my experiences happen in, but they're not the same as dreams, and I just know that, and people just have to accept that or let it go. But I then woke up drawing it. So I woke up while I was drawing it and sitting at my desk, and then I realized what had happened, that I'd had this weird experience and seen it in my room, and then like gone to my desk and started drawing it. And even in the drawing, I couldn't draw the eyes because I was like, there were no eyes.
Yeah, there's only been, all the times I've talked to people, there's only been 3 people that have mentioned eyes. 2 were yellow, 1 was red.
I projected red eyes onto it, but I know that I did that because I was like, where are your eyes? Like, I was trying to make them be there.
Yeah, I couldn't see a face. I knew it had a face, and I knew it was looking at me, but I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It was like it had a screen over it or something. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Very sneaky little guys. So you also do ghost hunting.
Yes. Yeah, I've been on over 300 ghost hunts.
Wow.
And I haven't done a lot of that lately, but it's a lot of fun. The reason that I learned the shaman things is because as you're doing these paranormal investigations, you run into other groups, and you get to know people. And a lady from another group called me and said, we're putting together a group of people that we're going to go to help people that nobody else can help. If there's some kind of a weird thing going on in a house that no other group can help, we'll go help them. Cool. And I thought that was great, but I thought, okay, but how are we going to do this? And that was when we met that first shaman, and we did some other things. Not a lot came from that group, but other than what I do now is really a direct offshoot of what I learned on in spite of the teacher, and went with that. But yeah, the ghost hunting's fun. I've got so many EVPs. There's a place in Utah called Eureka. It's an old ghost town, and before I was doing the energy work, I had a young man on my team that did energy work, and we were at this cemetery, Eureka Cemetery, and he was in touch with what was going on around us. And he said, there's 3 entities here that guard this area. It's sacred. We can't do anything offensive here. Nobody spits. Nobody pees on anything. This is, at night, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And he just says, you have to be on your best behavior because they won't be happy if you mess with things. And as soon as he finished talking about how we have to be on our best behavior and that there was 3 of them, I get an EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon, where you pick up talking that you can't hear when it happens, but you hear it on your recordings later. And it said, who brought us this? And it sounded a little odd. So I reversed it. On Audacity, the program I was using, you can flip those clips. And so I flipped it and played it. And it said, who brought us this on one side? And on the other side, it said, brought his message. Huh. And so that's one of my favorite EVPs. And then I've had a lot of them that say, I love Todd. We love Todd, things like that.
Aw.
And my team member, Karen might be on. Karen, I'm sorry. But they love me more than Karen. And so she'd always tease me. It's all about Todd. Everybody loves Todd. But yeah, that was neat. One time I was on a dance floor at I believe it was an Elks Lodge, and something asked me to dance in Italian.
Dance in Italian.
In Italian. And that's, as far as I know, that's the only EVP that we ever collected that was in a different language.
Wow.
I would always try to get stuff from other languages, but that was the only one, and it was just by accident. And it was kind of neat that it asked me to dance while I was on a dance floor.
Wow. Are you familiar with the reverse speech research by David Oates?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so. I've never heard of reverse speech EVPs. That's really cool. Of
Yeah.
course, they would be even probably better at it than we are. Like, maybe more
Yeah,
clearly.
there's a lot of times when I'm listening to the recordings, I'll hear just a strange sound, and so I'll flip that sound, and almost always it's a word.
Wow.
So.
Do you think that most ghost people just have so many different classifications and ideas of what ghosts are? Do you feel like they're spirits that just haven't left yet, or they're the souls of people and they're stuck here, or what do you think is going on most of the time?
My feeling is that it's more of a dimensional thing that we get by areas that the veil, the lining between dimensions might be thinner, and so you're able to hear things better. And my own thought is it's not so much a ghost, somebody's spirit, but I feel like, and some may be, and some probably are, but I think most of what's going on is we're interacting with a different dimension, a different plane, and for whatever reason in that spot we're able to get information back and forth. And I kind of think that they might be picking up some of my words and thinking I'm a ghost as well. That there's somebody on the other side doing the same thing. So my thought on most of that is that it's dimensional, and that we're just close for some reason, and that the ones that they call residual just happen to be at a place where time is a loop, or you only have access to a certain time, and that's why you keep getting that same thing happening over and over.
Yeah.
Is my thought on it.
That's more like the morphogenetic field. The energy is just sort of built there, and that same structure is still there, and so it's easier for it to stick where it was in the first place. And I think all of that is happening. Let's go back for a second to the alien abduction things. I know you work with a lot of people who are abducted. Do you ever have people who feel like it's positive? Do you feel like there's positive ones? Are some of those beings good?
Yeah. And I would say that most are fairly positive. There's the ones where people are being having samples taken from them. Obviously not positive, where they're forced to breed, not positive. But there are some positive ones. I had one myself where I wanted to experience it so bad, and be a part of that, and be on a ship and interact with aliens. And one night, and it's like you were talking about, you're not in a dream state, but you're not awake, and you're in that mid place. I had a visit from an alien, and it was having a conversation with me about the things that you want to do with these ships, your body won't sustain it. You'll die. You can't take the forces, the time forces, the energy forces that take place. You won't survive it. And so that was a positive one for me. And then I get the radio show, and I'm a smart aleck about it, and I'm talking about, when I'm hoping one day I get abducted, and when I do, I'm going to commandeer the ship and go wherever I want. And I was really being a smart aleck. And I'm staying in one of these roadside motels, those L-shaped ones that used to be everywhere. Standing in one of those, sleeping in one of those, and in the middle of the night, the back wall disappears, and about 7 different aliens come in. There was a mantis-looking one, multiple size grays, this blob thing, the alien that talked to me about my body wouldn't sustain things. And they made it very clear that I was to stop making fun of being able to take over these ships, that as cool and tough as I think I am, I wouldn't be able to do this. And they didn't think it was funny, and it needed to stop. And they made it clear to me that it better stop. And I had the worst flu. We'll call it flu. It's probably radiation poisoning.
I was going to say, it's probably radiation poisoning.
Something was going on, and I was just violently ill for the next 3 days. And I stopped making fun of that. I just recently started talking about I wanted to share with people what happened, but I no longer pretend or even think that I can commandeer one of those ships and keep it for my own. But I do think there's good ones out there. I don't know if they're helping us. I wish we knew more about it. And I used to, for years, I was on the soapbox saying, we're ready to hear it. You don't have to protect us from this. We need the knowledge. If there's something going on, if there's alien activity, you need to tell us. And then we tell people that that there's a virus that's very deadly, and you're going to have to stay in your house for a couple of weeks, and we go buy all the toilet paper in the world.
Yeah.
We're not ready to hear about aliens.
No.
if we can't handle purchasing toilet paper in a normal manner, we're not ready for the aliens. So I've had to retract all that. We do need some time. We need some growth, and we need to be better prepared before we know about the aliens. Otherwise, we're going to buy all the aluminum foil.
Yeah, we need a massive amount of healing.
Yeah,
perhaps, which is I think why more and more of us are coming online. Do you feel like a lot of people are seeking out becoming healers, or at the very least healing themselves during this time?
Absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about Polymedella is I want to do sessions where maybe 20 of us get together and do a healing on one thing. I'm working with the gentleman in Florida right now. Like I was saying, we're just starting that, and there's a young lady in Washington that's part of the group, and there's going to be a couple others, and I hope to get it up to 10, 15, 20, where we will at least on a weekly basis get together, channel our energies, and go after something like that, whether it's just helping us be to stop seeing the differences in each other and find the good things in each other. If it's to help with something going on, like with the masks, and the tension that went with that, whatever the case may be on a society level, to start working on those things to make us better people and better society, better communities. But a big group is I see the power to 2 + 2 is 7 on something like that. So I can see us really having a lot of power, and a lot of people are getting interested. 20 years ago, when I would talk about anything in the paranormal, people would, they'd put up their fingers like I was a vampire, and and they thought I was nuts. Some people wanted to talk about Bigfoot, most didn't. Most laughed at you if you believed in UFOs. Ghost things, they didn't want to be a part of. But now it's become, the paranormal is becoming the normal. And as we do that, things are changing in other places too, and there's more and more healers. And as we start to connect, I would love to see the healing community be something like the mushroom community with the mycelium, and we all get together and get that group think and make some great changes in the planet.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into or heard of or read Lynn Mctaggart's work, The Power of 8?
I know her name, but I have not studied it, and I'm not accessing any information on her right now. But yes, I know the name.
Yeah, it's just that same concept, like you said. 2 + 2 of us is actually 7, and when we have at least 8 of us together, and this is for anyone. It doesn't have to be healers or shamanic people or anything, but when we have 8 of us together, there's a measurable, scientifically, materially, there's a measurable effect on the outcome. So I put together a meditation group a couple years ago, for people who just wanted to join in and just have this intention for whoever needed it. So people could come in and say, oh, I really need this. And we'd be like, cool, we're going to meditate on this day at this time. You do 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes per person or per target, basically. And everyone just visualizes that and the positive thing or whatever. We had 100% success rate in that 100% of the things that people came and asked for, they received.
That is awesome.
It's awesome. And it's
Yeah.
always works. And so if you have 8 healers together, right, then like what also is
Yeah.
the effect of that? So there is no, and that's the quantum field as well. Like you said, I also work only through Zoom, honestly. Like these things have no, like we talked about having no time, they have no space restrictions either. This is
Right.
just the information in the field, and we can all affect it. We're all affecting it all the time. And I
Yes.
feel like that's the beauty of right now, is that that's becoming more and more obvious to people, I hope.
Absolutely. And you the distance doesn't mean anything, and it happens instantaneously. And that's something that science has proven, is that thought travels faster than the speed of light.
Ha.
And so these things are taking place, in real time, no matter how far away.
I love that. I love that you're doing that work. Do you ever work with what people call like ascended masters or angels or saints or Buddhas or anything like that when you're doing this type of work? Do you encounter those beings?
I have not encountered those beings. My main guide could be something like that. The name that I have is not a biblical name, but I feel like he's kind of that same energy. I have not, but most people that I work with do. And Archangel Michael seems to be the number one that they have, that they bring in for help and that with it. But that's not happened with me. But many of the people that I work with, it does.
Yeah, that's so interesting too. I know these are both random questions, but what do you feel, or have you learned anything about, or have any teachings about eclipses? Because I've heard, from many of the traditions I've learned from, you don't go out during an eclipse. That's not an energy you connect with. Like, this is a time for you to be in yourself and sort of protected and whatever. And then others, you go out into it and you're like connecting with it, and this is a powerful thing. And do you have any ideas one way or another?
Yeah, for me, it's the second. It's an energy, it's a change in energy, it's a focus of energy when those things line up like that. So for me, it's energizing to be out in that, and you can't keep me away. If there's an eclipse, I'm the guy that's probably staring at the sun too much and hurting his eye, because I really want to be a part of that. And very energizing for me, and I feel good energy and strength when those things happen, or when planets align, and you can feel the changes that way too.
Yeah, I feel sometimes I'm sort of guided to not go be a part of him, and sometimes I'm like, yes, go be a part of it. So I don't know, I'm not. I go both ways.
I think you need to listen.
Yeah,
exactly. You need to listen to that.
I tell people all the time, like, I learned a long time ago, I just do what I'm told. That's how things work out best.
And there's a reason, and paying attention to your body. One of the things that I, as I'm doing the radio show through the years, if I'm about to do the show and my stomach is just a mess, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I want to quit. I don't even want to tell the person that I'm about to talk to that I'm going to just bail on them. I just want to be done with it and gone. When I start feeling that way, I know that I'm about to have an amazing interview.
Yeah.
And now, once I finally understood that, everything changed. And what helped me with that change was, there was a golf tournament, and this has been probably 40 years ago. Jack Nicklaus was still the king of golf at that time, and he was in a tie with somebody, and they both hit off the first tee for the tiebreaker and hit almost the exact same shot, and they're walking down to hit the next shot together, and the other guy had never won a tournament, younger guy, and he says, "Oh my God, my stomach's a mess. I'm shaking. This is unbelievable. I'm so sick right now from all that's going on." And Nicholas looks at him and says, "Yeah, isn't that great?" One guy understood it, used that energy, surfed the energy, whatever you want to call it, and continued to win. The other guy let that energy crumple him, and they each just made a decision. And once I understood that my body was keying into something at a different level, instead of instead of all those crazy thoughts about I'm just going to quit, I'm going to unplug everything and run. It was, oh boy, this is going to be fun. I can't wait to talk to this person. And it really changed my mindset on how to do these things.
Oh, that's such a cool feeling. I totally can relate to that. And now I understand myself better as well. I would love to also hear your take on Bigfoot, because that's obviously one of your guides and something you're very interested in. And I know there's so many ideas about what's going on with that. What's your idea about what's going on with that?
Again, I think there's a dimensional factor to it. When I got him for my guide, and I keep saying him, but it's actually a female Bigfoot that's my guide. And but it's so many years of saying him that I still mess that up. So we're doing the ceremony. It was the same ceremony where the energy was messed up, where they were trying to force the wrong energy on me. And we're walking around this campfire, asking our guides to come to us. And it was winter time, and there was ice, and it was kind of on a hill. So you'd walk up a little bit on a hill and walk down a little bit on a hill. It was treacherous walking. And when my elk guide came to me, I felt my chest pump out like an elk's would. I'm walking different. My footing's perfect. No more problem. And I realized, okay, I'm an elk. This is great. I've got elk spirit came to me. What a great spirit animal. I was so happy. And then it left. And I'm looking around, everybody else is still in the moment and still doing it. And I'm like, why did my elk leave? And I'm trying to get the elk back. And as I'm thinking that, my stride starts changing, starts getting longer. And I start, moving my arms and doing this exaggerated walk. And it was like the Gim, the famous,
I know you're talking about the movie
down by the river where it looks back at you. And it turns out that one's a female. And I'm walking like that. And as I come up around the fire on the uphill side, I look down this ridge of mountains, and I knew, and it wasn't just, I think this is happening. I knew that if I wanted to, I could walk along that ridge of mountains and go like 40 miles in a second. That's how strong that spirit was in me. And I could do what they do. And I think there's a dimensional factor with them. And I also think that they're involved with the UFOs. Many of the people that I've talked to that have been abducted have seen Bigfoot on the ships and have seen them when they're being abducted. So I think there's a component with Bigfoot that's in those ships, and also that they have some kind of transdimensional movement. I don't know how else you can follow tracks for 2 miles and then they just stop. Yeah. And there's nowhere for them to go. I guess they could, very carefully step backwards and the track's exactly perfect. But, how does that happen? How do we never find one? And I think they're not of our dimension, but I think they visit. I also don't think that they're aggressive killers like the shows show. I think that's to sell movie tickets and get people to watch. I think they're sentient, and I think they're decent. I don't think they're here to kill us and eat us and those kind of things.
No, I also feel that I had what I'll call a Bigfoot experience one night, and I experienced it as saving my life. And when I told my friend this story, who knew a lot more of the native lore around Bigfoot than I had ever heard before, she said, well, yeah, Bigfoot are the protector of women and children. And I was like, oh, I didn't know, but I experienced that as true too. So I feel the same. And those interdimensional qualities are interesting to put them along with the aliens, because I also have that idea about these aliens too, that I don't think they're quite physical, and an idea that we have about what that means.
Right. Yes. And the way they can move and be in places that they shouldn't be able to be in. So yeah, I think there's a dimensional quality.
Like you said, yours did. Like
yeah, I don't know how else to describe that. And so many people have talked about going through walls. Just as many people get abducted in New York as they do on a dirt road in rural Nevada.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you are. You've got just as good a chance of being a part of this as anybody. They do seem to look for certain people, and it does seem to be there seems to be some kind of family component to it. But yeah, you can be abducted virtually anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at and how well you think you can hide.
Yeah. They're like, oh no, we know exactly where you are all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we know.
So what about near-death experiences? Have you had a near-death experience?
I have. So when I was in high school, I had a pretty bad hernia, and didn't tell anybody about it for a while. I was embarrassed about it. Went through most of a cross country running season, and then all of a wrestling season before I told anybody about it. And went in to get the surgery, and while they were operating on me, I left my body. I was sitting on top of some machinery in the corner watching them. And I remember watching a nurse, just like chaos happened, and a nurse ran out of the room to go get something. And the surgeon was yelling at the anesthesiologist, and he was yelling back at the surgeon. And I'm going to say probably 10, 15 seconds, I was watching all this. And then I was just slammed back into my body, and everything was dark again. I asked them about it the next day when they were doing their rounds, and the doctor was visibly shaken and said, no, that didn't happen.
But you
did. And that was when a hernia operation put you in the hospital for a week or more. And he never came back to check on me. A different surgeon checked on me after that every time.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that's what happened with me with my near-death experience. I also had I guess it would be more of an out-of-body experience. I, at 2 different times, got into fights with multiple people and left my body and watched it from above, watched it from the top of a gymnasium on one, and watched it from a balcony of an apartment building complex on another. So I know that there's a spiritual component to us, and I know we can leave our bodies. And I had the opportunity to do it once in near death mode and once in just out of body mode. And I'm not sure why. I've talked to other people that have had weird fights like that, and that didn't happen to them. But yeah, both times that there was multiple people, I left my body and watched it from above.
Oh wow! And do you feel like near-death experiences are good or bad or neutral or?
I think they're great, and the reason I say that is, the unknown tends to terrify us, and there's one great unknown that none of us are going to understand until it happens, and that's death. And so the people that have had the opportunity of passing for a short time and going to the other side and then telling us their story, I think is important, and it helps us relax, and it helps us know that there's more. What's more terrifying than worrying about your child passing away or a parent and thinking that there's just oblivion for them. But if you know that there's something on the other side, and you know that they're going to have loved ones waiting for them when they transition, that while you still feel the loss and you're still upset about the loss, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I know it's really hard to come back, or it's been in my own experiences as well, but that doesn't mean that I would ever trade them for anything.
Yes.
Well, I know we have to start to wrap up, but I want to hear again about the book, Slipstream Shaman, where people can find it, and anything else you want to share with people about you and what you do or where to find you.
Yeah. So for me and the book, there's a link on my website, slipstreamshaman.com. If they go there, they'll be able to get the link. There's also links to shows that I've done on my side of the universe. There's going to be links in the future to these kind of interviews, so people can see this. That we're not quite there yet. I've got my nephew Trevor. Maybe he's watching. Hey Trevor.
Hey Trevor.
He's taking care of that for me. He's a great young man, and but the website is up, so you can click the link and go get the book. Or if you just go to Amazon and search Slipstream Shaman, it'll come up. You can get it in either Kindle or paperback. And I would also encourage anybody that's listening. I don't have hardly any friends on Instagram. If you have an Instagram, be my friend. I will definitely accept it. I don't even know if it's called friends on Instagram, but
I don't either.
Make that connection. And
where can we find
I'd love
you
to have
on
some
Instagram?
people.
Slipstream Shaman.
Yep, Slipstream
Okay.
Shaman on Instagram.
Do it.
And tried to keep it the same on everything. And if you need to talk to me, if you want to there's an email link at the website, slipstreamshaman.com. Or if you don't want to go to the website, it's just slipstreamshaman@gmail. So if you need to get a hold of me, you can do it that way. And there'll be a lot of things coming up. We'll do some group things and some trainings. And there's going to be a book in the next couple months that is geared, I can't really say that it's geared towards just first responders, military, medical, that kind of thing. It's really geared towards everybody. It's a lot of trauma release and how to do that. So that'll be coming out soon, and it'll probably be called Slipstream Shaman 2, and so within the next couple months that'll be available.
Oh, perfect! How exciting! All of those things are available so easily. Slipstream Shaman everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. It's amazing. When I did the book on a Saturday afternoon, it was just an electronic file on my computer. Went to the Amazon thing, put it all in. Once it was set there, they were being delivered to people on Tuesday. So on Saturday, it was just a pile of electronic nonsense in the ether. On Tuesday, it's a book in people's house. It's just amazing what some of the technology that we have available right now can do. Skype and Zoom and all those things. We can talk to people on Easter Island or anywhere on the earth, and it's like they're right next door to us and right in the same room. It's so clear and easy to hear them. It's really amazing, some of the things that are going on. And I think, what we're doing, you and I and the others, the healers, are tying into that, to where we're no longer limited by those just right in the, a few miles around us. We're worldwide now, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, thank God. That makes it much easier. So I love, this has been such a great conversation. We could, I'm sure, talk many times over many hours about all of these things. Such a fascinating life. And I know we zoomed through it all, but I'm sure we'll talk again sometime. And what are your final thoughts that you want to leave people with?
Just, find that thing that's your purpose, that makes you happy. That's where this all went with me, is what is my purpose? How do I, and then once I knew it was to help, how do I help? And this book is how I do that. This book can help if you're struggling to find your purpose. It can certainly help if you have some concerns about protection, especially night things. You were talking about the hat man, the watching man, the shadow people that bother people at night. You can set up, it'll show you how to set up protection for that. So that's what this is all about, is helping people have a better life and a happier, better energy.
Beautiful. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom, according to the Slipstream Shaman, Todd Wilcox. Todd, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
And interdimensional is another word for multi-leveled consciousness, which is another way to describe our infinite levels of awareness, which is to say that every single consciousness is interdimensionally equipped. The only thing stopping anyone from moving easily through time, space, and all dimensions is their own commitment to just the few they already move through, and their belief that it is all there is, or that they're capable of. Let loose your imagination and dream big if you want to go big. And until you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
I heard the Bilderbergers called you. And I was like, hello? Hello? And ain't nobody answering shit, man. I mean, for real, man. I must have hung up. Phone rang again. And I was like, hello? Ain't nobody even answering, dog. Some real shit, man. They tapping my telephone. It's really the real when you step to the plate. And it ain't too late to change your ways of being fake. Humans create with creativity, so make what you create to shine through. All niggas wanna do is shine. Make your view rhyme, but the deaf to the blind. For those left behind, I crept and I climbed to the top of my mind. And I found I've been taught to be conformed, and I was never warned of the signs. Crimes committed as an adolescent, now I'm trapped through the system stressing. With aggression and emotive, through passion and emotion, to set the truth in motion. They gave me Zola for a rainy day, and they gave me Zyprex to sleep my life away. Society's labeled a man to be bipolar, might as well gave me heroin and coke.
how Western medicines work. This is also how Western religions work. And Americans work 9 to 5. Not asking the questions of how, when, where, what, and why. I remain on the quest thirsty for salvation. With a taste of blood, with a fallen warrior's dream of surviving this flood of chaos. Those who continue to judge a book by its cover are way off. Breaking these laws of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances survive to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chances survive to revive an immortal lie.
We're conditioned to be housebroken and weekend. Labor all week, pay them, and with the rest, drown away the weekend. Wires and voltages set strategically to damage chakras. Make sure to take those prescriptions given to you by the doctor. Wash it down with contaminated water. Worship a holy father, eat trash food, remain drained for the slaughter. Mother Nature's now the Illuminati's daughter. Through molestation, unnoticed by the blind mind in every nation. Not allowed to know God is present in each and every individual. Ancient truth forgotten except the Bohemian Grove rituals. Inbred bloodlines created unruly ruling class of elites cold as reptiles. The awoken even see the signs on the streets. Encryptions passed off as fiction and paranoia reaction. 33s and bows with skulls are laughing right now with Kennedy's assassin. 2 pillars burning. History repeats as I babble on truth. Write down our fate for centuries. I change their plans when I'm up in the booth.
Everlasting pressures of life got me up in the night, not knowing if I'm wrong or right. Something within me tells me to fight, and it's like I'm trying to find the true nature of being God-like versus religious beliefs, which indeed tells me I'm doomed from day one out the womb. They want us to be consumed with fear, with negative thoughts engineered to fear God, and that's to fear oneself, and that's real. You tell me that I'm imperfect, how is that when everything's for a reason? You forget that everything is meant to be. But they got us withering away, not knowing sacred geometry, which degrades philosophy of every soul, in which they try to control your mind with limitations, over exceeding your expectations. You'll be considered an outcast with lacerations, so I continue to master patience, creating ways to make it through the Piscean age that's getting close to the Aquarian stage. As I stand strong on my God-given rod, it's my life against all odds to penetrate these imprisoned walls that creates flaws and false laws. So y'all niggas better recognize before you die, before you had the chance to survive, and that's breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive to revive an immortal lie. Breaking these bars of a scarred prison, reminiscing of pain, taming niggas up in the system. Got us living a lie with a cry, nobody hears ya. Chance to survive to revive an immortal lie.